That's good. How you doing this morning? You know, I thought before I went into the office today, I'd sit down, do a little bit of Facebook Live with you, have a cup of coffee with you. So grab a piece of paper. I'm using a recycled envelope. Grab you a pen. I got my Sharpie. And get you a cup of coffee because I'm about to teach you what's going to happen to your credit score if you pay everything off and stop using your credit. Let me move this in a little bit. Oh, hold on. Let me turn off this ring-a-dingy thing back here. People in the office are already texting me and slacking me. But here's a question that I get on a regular basis, and I received it just a few days ago when I did the post with, ask me any question that you would like, or ask me a question you'd like me to cover in a Facebook Live. And so someone had asked, what happens to my credit report or credit score if I stop using my credit? And that's a great question. If you have a question, please send me a direct message with the question. I promise I'll cover it on a Facebook Live video or in my new Coffee and Credit with Rondi TV show that's going to start here in the next few weeks. They're just finishing up the studio. So Coffee and Credit with Rondi every day right here in my studio. But if you have a question you'd like to have it answered, please send me a direct message. It'll be easier if you do direct message, or you can just put it on one of the posts. That's fine. I'm keeping track of it anyway. Whatever is easiest for you. If you like the content of my show, please share it with someone that you think could use some financial education, some credit education. Maybe they could use some motivation every once in a while or some encouragement. I'm not going to say I'm motivating people, but maybe encourage them. All right. What happens to your credit if you pay everything off and you fail to continue to use credit? There is a guy on the radio. He's on over 400 stations. He's amassed a huge empire. Has a little TV show as well. Goes by the term of Uncle Dave. Do you know who I'm talking about? Uncle Dave will tell you to cut up your credit cards. Stop using them. Pay off your cars. Pay off your house. If you can't afford to pay cash, you can't afford to buy it. Cash is king. No, my friend, cash is not king. Credit is king. We do not live in the 1950s anymore. No. I know some of you want to. My mom wants to go back to the 1850s, which I think is absolutely crazy. She thinks life is hard now. Can you imagine going back in the 1800s? That's what she's wanting. That's how she raised me and my little brothers and sisters. No running water, no electricity, in a shack, living in a tent, in the mountains, living off of the land. It was fun. I got to admit, as a kid, it was fun. I didn't know any better. But looking back, dude, I'd never want to do that again. I wouldn't change it because it made me who I am, made me very resourceful. I've never been lost my entire life as far as directional because of the way she raised me to live off the land as if I was living in the 1800s. But it ain't any fun. It sucks, let me tell you. You think it's bad getting up at night, stubbing your toe on your bed when you go to the bathroom? I didn't have a bed as a kid. I didn't stub my toe. I had to get up, go outside in below zero weather, and go to the bathroom. That's how you learn to hold it, right? All right, I digressed. So what's going to happen? Uncle Dave says cut everything up, throw it away, pay cash. Cash is king. The paid off mortgage is the new status symbol replacing the BMW. All hogwash. Great for his empire. What you don't know, and what a lot of people don't know, is he makes millions of dollars from mortgage companies, insurance companies, real estate agents, people that he kind of refers, but he says pay everything off. But really what's happening, you pay everything off, your credit score goes down, you go get a mortgage with his partner, and you pay more interest, he gets a bigger paycheck. There's another one, little Susie. Can't afford to buy it. Pay cash. Don't use your credit. Guess who sponsors her? Banks and FICO. Now, why would the banks and FICO not want you to have great credit? So they can make more money. It's really simple. It's very, very simple. So what's going to happen to your credit report, your credit score, if you stop using your credit cards, if you stop using loans? It's really simple. What happens to people who stop exercising? You see it. The other day I saw an old man that could barely walk. Actually, it was yesterday. I had to go get a CT scan, CAT scan of my lung to see if the blood clot was gone yet. And I've seen some really unhealthy people there. Last week I seen some really unhealthy people at the cancer treatment center. Talk about life-changing, change your attitude, right? But what happens if you stop going to the gym, if you stop exercising, if you just lounge around, become a couch potato? We've seen them, right? They get all hunched over. Now they're in walkers. Sometimes they're in little carts and they run into you at Walmart and Costco. Their bodies start to fall apart. Now, as you know, I'm not an exercise addict. I go because I have to go. I've started to enjoy it. Actually, yesterday was the first day in a long time that I went to the gym that it didn't actually completely kick my ass. Last week I walked 1 mile. It took me 5-6 days to recover from walking 1 mile at the gym. Yesterday I walked a mile. I did a little bit of chest work just to kind of get things moving. And today I feel pretty good. So I'm going to go again tonight. But I'm not one of those addicts that has to be in the gym. I do it because I have to do it. Because if I don't work out, if I don't work and exercise my muscle, just like you, if you don't exercise, if you don't use it, what happens to it? If you don't use it, what happens? You lose it. It's really that simple. If you don't feed your mind every day, you lose it. I have my wife say to me all the time, how can you do that math so fast in your head? It's because that's what I do. I do math stuff all the time in my head. It takes her longer. She's an extremely intelligent woman. It takes her longer to take out her phone and do some math calculations than it does for me to do it in my head. Another guy that's amazing at this is Grant Cardone. When he starts talking about millions of dollars in cap rates and APRs and payments, he's really good at it because he does it all the time. When you do things all the time, it makes it easier. So back to the credit. If you do not use your credit, you will lose it. If you pay off the credit cards and you start paying cash for everything and you pay off, excuse me, there's the little pneumonia and blood clot residual. If you pay off your credit cards, you pay off your loans, you pay off your house, and you start paying cash for everything, you're going to have what's called considered poor credit, bad credit. I've seen credit reports. Lower credit scores for people that paid cash for the last 10, 20 years. Their credit score is lower than the guy that doesn't pay any of his bills on time. He's got lots of collections. If you do not use your credit, you're going to lose it because your accounts will eventually fall off. Generally, they fall off somewhere between 10 and 20 years. So if you close that account, you can figure in the next 10 to 20 years, you will start over just like you were 18 years old with bad credit or no credit. Now, Uncle Dave does say that you can buy a house with a zero credit score, with no credit score, it is true. You can buy a house with no credit score. But if you have simply 1 point, or if you simply have a 350, you disqualify for this government program. You have to have absolutely no score, non-rated, no report, nothing. And it's going to take you 20 years on average to get to that if you have established credit now. So do you want to be a renter for the next 20 years just so you can buy a house Uncle Dave's way with no credit? No, you don't want to do that. That's stupid. So instead, use your credit cards the right way. Use your car loans the right way. Your student loans, use them for you. Student loans are an amazing product on the credit report if you never pay them off. You pay them down so you're not paying interest, but you don't pay them completely off. Just like with your car loans, just like with your motorcycle loan, your boat loan, your four-wheeler, your snowmobile. Now, you've heard me say this. If you have to finance your recreation, you don't have time to be recreating. You need to make enough money so you can pay cash. Now, I'm not saying to pay cash for them, because you always can buy things cheaper, with exception to like Craigslist or something, or drugs. Generally speaking, if you buy from a dealer, you can buy it cheaper if you pay with credit, because they get a cut. This weekend, I went and looked at a new Ferrari. Actually, it's not new. I looked at a 10-year-old Ferrari. And the guy said, "You're going to be paying cash or you're going to finance it?" I said, "Cash. Why would I pay cash? I know you guys are going to make money getting me the loan so I can get a better deal on the car." And he goes, "That's absolutely right. Yeah, we'd like it if you would get a loan." Because they're going to make money on that loan, right? So you never want to pay cash for anything but hookers, blow, and maybe something off of Craigslist, right? Not encouraging that. I'm just using that. You always want to pay with credit because it's cheaper. Cash is not king anymore. Credit is king. You pay with your American Express card, your Capital One card, your Barclays card, your Chase Freedom card. You get cash back, you get points. Who pays for the points? All the schmucks out there paying with their debit cards. Is that you? Did I just call you a schmuck because you're paying with your debit card? Giving the world access to your paychecks for the next 3 months? Another segment for another day, why you should never use a debit card. Cash is not king. Cash is dead. Use your credit. If you want to become extremely wealthy, you have to understand credit, your FICO scores, and how to use other people's money. Mainly the banks. And it's not even the bank's money. It's other people's money that grew up to save a penny and to put it in the bank account. So now the banks can loan out 10 times that amount. See, it's fake money that you borrow from the bank. It's monopoly money. Remember the rule in Monopoly? The bank never goes broke. If you run out of money, simply write it on a piece of paper. That's how it works in real life. It's called fractional reserve banking. They never run out of money. They say they print it. It's not printed. It's freaking ones and zeros and an enter. And magically it appears on a spreadsheet based in the cloud somewhere, right? You need to learn how to use other people's money. You need to learn how to increase your credit score and how to use credit for you. You need to learn that game. And that's why I do this every day, or I try to do it every day. I also have a couple companies that I run as well. So subscribe if you'd like to watch maybe tomorrow's video, maybe this afternoon's video. Share this with a friend if there's somebody out there that could use some help in improving their credit, increasing their credit score. But let me recap. If you stop using your credit, you stop using the credit cards, you pay off your car loans, you start paying down your house. If you do that and you continue down that road, you will have a life of no credit. And it's a lot harder. If you think being young and broke is hard, just try to be old and broke. That would be hard. Working at Walmart in your 70s. Working at In-N-Out in your 70s. Asking someone, would you like to supersize that in your 80s? That's not what I want to do. So you got to start now. Learn how to use your credit. Learn how to use it the right way. Never pay off a loan early, credit-wise. Maybe financially you want to do it for interest, you want to buy something else or whatever. You got to deal with the consequences of that. Pay off your credit cards every month. Continue to use them every month. You have to use the credit cards every single month. I can't stress that enough. I see it every day. I have someone coming in today that I'm going to have lunch with. And if I said his name, you would know who he is. He's known by literally hundreds of millions of people throughout the world, maybe more. Was in TV and radio for over 40 years. This guy's, it's his manager coming in to have lunch with me today. I'm going to look at his credit report. And I bet, I will put money on it right now that he's got credit cards on there that he's not using. And he wants to come in, we're going to talk about a new TV show and do an interview with the king and doing some other stuff, but he wants me to look at his credit report. He wants to see if I can help increase his credit score. Now, he doesn't have bad credit. He just wants to know, how do I get from a 721 to an 824? So I'm going to look at his credit report and I'm going to show him. I will put money on it right now without even looking at it. I would put money on it right now that he has credit cards that he's not using every single month. And what happens when you don't use a credit card is FICO kicks it out. It's kind of like, I think it's called atrophy. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. There's a lot of the English language that I haven't figured out how to say yet. It's what happens when you grow up in a tent in the mountains with no running water, no electricity. You get your own dialect the way you talk. Like those kids up in Alaska, right? But if you don't use your credit cards every month, if you don't use your credit, it's going to get credit atrophy because you're not using it. And so it doesn't continue to grow. It doesn't even stay at the same size. It decreases because you're not using it. So you have to use those credit cards every month. Now, what if, and everybody keeps asking me this, saying, well, I'm going to go a little bit long today. I'm going to answer this question now. What if you don't pay your credit cards off in full every month? Excuse me. What if you don't pay off your credit cards in full every month? Then you still have activity. If you're not paying them off in full, you need to start paying those down as fast as possible. You do not want to be paying bank interest. I got so pissed off last year because my controller forgot to pay something off, and I paid like $18 in interest. And I was angry for a few seconds. I'm like, well, whatever. He's new at it. He'll figure it out. But it's $18. I didn't want to pay $18 in interest because my controller forgot to pay a bill earlier, pay it off in full. And he come from a $4 billion company that they didn't pay off their credit cards every month. He comes from corporate America. He's got a master's degree from Pepperdine and an MBA. And he sat down, he's like, you pay off your credit cards every month? I'm like, yeah. He's like, companies don't do that. He's like, do you have any debt? I'm like, no. He's like, that's not normal. You have to go get debt. I'm like, well, we'll get it. But right now we're paying everything off in full because I don't want to pay interest. Now, sometimes you do want to pay interest. But credit card interest is stupid money. That's 18%, 21%, 30%. That's stupid. Now, if you got a line of credit or a business loan and you're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%, maybe it's okay to pay interest on that, but not 17 to 30% interest. All right? That's not a good idea. So what do you do if you're not paying them off in full every month? Stop carrying them around with you. What if I have an emergency? Then go home and get it. There's very little emergencies that you can't handle. There's not, most things in life are not emergencies anymore. As you know, maybe don't, I'm a retired fireman. I've seen real emergencies. I've seen kids shot, stabbed, ran over by cars, people falling off of roofs, people inside of buildings, people burned. That is an emergency. When I checked myself into the hospital, my pulse ox was 64. My organs were starting to shut down. My brain was starting to shut down. That's really, really low. It's bad. I knew I had a blood clot because I had already got diagnosed with it. I knew I had pneumonia in both of my lungs. And I go in to check in, and they're like, have a seat, sir. I'm like, no, this is a real emergency. They're like, have a seat, we'll get to you. And I said, no, I have a pulmonary embolism. My pulse ox is 64. I got to see somebody now. That's like saying you have chest pain. They immediately got out of their chair, stopped screwing around, got me on oxygen, right? But as I looked around in the room, and you've seen it if you've ever been to an emergency room, there's people there with stubbed toes. There's people with little cuts on their finger. That's not emergencies. They're abusing the system. They don't want to go to a regular doctor. They don't want to have to fix it themselves. They want to go and abuse the system, let someone else pay for their bills. They're not real emergencies. Back to your credit emergency. There's not very many emergencies that you have to carry your credit card around with you. If you're not paying off the credit card every month in full, put it away. If you are paying off in full, and you don't want to carry it, which is what I do, put Netflix on it. Put your internet on it. Put your cell phone bill on it. Put your Starbucks addiction on it. Put your once a month dog grooming bill on it. Put your car insurance on it. Put your electric bill, your water bill, your sewer bill, your garbage bill. Do you see the theme here? You put your reoccurring utility bills, your reoccurring bill that you're going to pay every month no matter what. I've seen it, and I see it on a regular basis. Someone pays Netflix, but they don't pay Capital One because they cannot live without their Netflix. But they'll live with bad credit. If you don't want to use the card every month, you don't want to carry it around, you're afraid you're going to go into debt, you're afraid you're going to abuse it, then put Netflix on it, put your electric bill, put your car insurance, put your water bill, whatever it is. Bills that you're going to pay off every month in full. And then you go into CapitalOne.com, whatever it is, payments, manage, auto pay, pay in full 2 days before the due date. And then make sure you got the money in your checking account. And I know people will be like, well, I live paycheck to paycheck, just like 67% of average Americans right now. 67% of adult Americans live paycheck to paycheck. If that's you, then you got to buckle down for like 2 weeks. That's it. Make sure you got your $7.99 in your bank account so when they pull it out, it doesn't bounce. But if it does bounce, it's cheaper to pay the NSF fee than it is for me to fix your credit. It's cheaper to pay the NSF fee than it is higher interest rate over the next 7 years. It's better to pay the NSF fee than it is to have bad credit. But you want to avoid the NSF fee by making sure you got enough money in there. So let's recap. If you don't use your credit, if you pay off your credit cards, you pay off your loans, you pay off your mortgage, you don't use your credit, you're going to lose it. Credit atrophy. All right? If you get into credit atrophy, just like if you get injured, your muscles start shrinking. A few years ago, I hurt myself playing golf. My left leg now is 2 inches smaller than my right leg, my quad. I haven't been able to build it back up. I've tried. I just haven't been able to. And you'll see that look at people that are paralyzed. Their legs shrink up to about that big around, the size of their femur, right? A little bit of vein, a little bit of skin. There's no muscle because it's not being used. It's atrophy. And if you don't use your credit, every single month, you are going to develop credit atrophy. And sometimes you can't get it back because it takes years to build it back up. Sometimes you don't have years. What if you have the emergency and you didn't have the credit? My daughter's Mazda 626 just completely fell apart. They cut off the back wheels, they cut off the shocks, they did some engine work. It's over $3,000. What if she didn't have credit cards to put that on? What if she lived like everybody else and just, or how Dave Ramsey said, put the money away? Well, she didn't have the money. But because she had credit, she was able to put it on a credit card. Yeah, she's going to pay some interest. But otherwise, she wouldn't have the car. You know, she could have done like some people, found out, went traded it in, lied, said there's nothing wrong with it, cheated, stole, let someone else get stuck with it. And people do that. That's why it's scary when you buy a used car, because you don't know if someone did that, right? But she did the responsible thing. She put it on a credit card. Now she's going to start hammering away on those credit cards. That's what you got to do sometimes. So make sure you use your credit cards and your credit all the time. You don't want to develop credit atrophy. If you need help with credit, go to my website, rondylambert.com. That's rondylambert.com. I got over 2,000 radio shows on there. I got TV interviews. I got my books on there. I got so much on rondylambert.com. A lot of it's free. The books are free. You just pay for shipping. Go to the website. If you like the video, you like the content, please share it with a friend. Let someone else learn from this. Until next time, have a good day.